Judas was a gifted carpenter, known for shaping wood with magic-like precision, but poverty pushed him toward a dangerous curiosity. Why did his pastor drive luxury cars while he starved? What secret power were others using? One desperate decision would lead him down a dark path no man should ever walk. And what he discovered shocked everyone. Judas Okoye was known across Mile 7 as the man whose hands could bring dead wood back to life. His workshop, a small zinc structure beside a dusty roadside gutter, was always filled with sawdust, the scent of fresh timber, and the rhythmic beating of his hammer. He crafted chairs, wardrobes, bed frames, and shelves with precision that made customers praise him sincerely. But praise never paid rent, and admiration never filled a man's stomach. Every morning, Judas opened his shop before the sun rose, wiping the sweat from his forehead as he sharpened his tools. And every evening, he watched cars drive past. Big cars, shiny cars, cars that belonged to men whose clothes looked untouched. By suffering among those cars, one always pained him more than the rest. The newest luxury SUV belonging to Pastor Elijah of Dominion's Sanctuary Ministries. The biggest church in the whole area, Pastor Elijah was everything Judas wasn't. Rich, respected, powerful. His suits looked like they had been sewn by angels. His perfumes filled the air like expensive testimony. His convoy moved like royalty, and people bowed when he stepped out. Judas often stood at the roadside, covered in sweat and sawdust, wondering why God created men so unequally. One hot afternoon, Judas sat outside wiping his tools while his friend, Emeka, a phone repairer whose kiosk stood opposite, ate roasted plantain. Judas, Emeka said, pointing at the road, "See your pastor, donde pass again." Judas looked up sharply. The convoy approached slowly, the SUV, the escort car, and the gleaming smile of Pastor Elijah through the tinted window. The pastor waved gently at bystanders, and people screamed, "Daddy, man of God, bless me." Judas scoffed loudly. "Man of God, K, my brother, now business, that man they do big business." Emeka stopped chewing. "Judas, a beg no start." But Judas continued, voice sharp with bitterness. "You dey see wetin I dey see? Every Sunday offering full basket. People way no get enough food go still drop their last money. Pastor go come drive new car. How that one be ministry? I beg, church no business." Emeka wiped his mouth. "Church no be business. You dey talk like person way no fear God." Judas leaned forward. "And why pastors get private jets? Why them go build mansion for Banana Island? You think say na only prayer they give all that? A big leave matter." Emeka sighed. "So because some pastors enjoy blessing, you want open church too?" Judas nodded slowly, as if the idea had been growing roots in him for months. "Yes, I go open my own church, I get mouth, I sabi talk. I fit preach small, people go believe me." "And God call you?" Emeka asked softly. Judas shook his head. "Call, my brother, call no put food for table. Na power they attract crowd. If I find power, correct power, my church go full." Emeka felt cold. "Judas, wedding you day plan?" Judas whispered, "I go meet powerful native doctor. Makey give me charm." That's what many big pastors do. Emeka stood abruptly. "Judas, fear God, no go that road." But Judas's mind was already gone. Temptation had taken root. But once ambition blinds a man, advice sounds like insult. Judas brushed off Emeka's warning as a man brushes dust from his clothes. That night, he lay on his thin mattress staring at the corrugated roof, imagining a congregation shouting, "Daddy, Daddy," as they rushed to the altar, throwing money. He imagined suits, perfumes, invitations to preach abroad, and his own cars, parked in front of his mansion. By the next morning, the decision was sealed. Judas closed his workshop and traveled to his village to look for the powerful witch doctor people whispered about, Nwoko the seer. Stories said he could make barren trees sprout fruit, turn poor men wealthy, and summon spirits that answered like soldiers obeying a king. Judas found him deep inside a thick bush path, in a mud hut that smelled of incense and old memories. The hut was decorated with red cloth, bones, feathers, charms, and clay pots filled with strange liquids. As Judas entered, his body trembled, not with fear, but with anticipation. Nwoko the seer sat cross-legged before a smoky pot, his eyes red like burning coal. He didn't lift his head when Judas stepped in. He simply said, "I know why you are here." Judas swallowed. "I want power. I want my own church. I want crowd, miracles, money." Nwoko finally looked up, a slow smile forming. "Many young men come here with that desire. Some pastors you see shining today once passed through this hut. You want to join them?" Judas nodded eagerly. "But power is not cheap," Nwoko whispered. "You must do what ordinary men fear." Judas's voice shook. "I'm ready." Nwoko leaned closer. "In this town, there is a mad woman who wanders the market. Spirits dwell inside her. To gain the power you want, you must sleep with her for 5 nights. 5 nights without missing one." Judas froze, the air suddenly thinned around him. "Nwoko? A mad woman?" "Yes. The spirits controlling her will transfer to you once you complete it. Then your church will overflow." Judas felt bile rise in his throat. He stepped back in disgust. "Is there no other way?" "No." Nwoko's voice hardened. "Power demands sacrifice. If you want the life of a great pastor, you must pass through darkness." Judas closed his eyes, shaking. The thought of touching a dirty, mentally broken woman made his skin crawl. But then he remembered the pastor's convoy, the luxury cars, the wealth greed whispered louder than conscience. "I will do it," Judas said in a shaking voice. That night he began the journey into madness. He found the mad woman near a gutter, humming to herself, covered in dirt. Judas hid under shadows, ashamed and terrified. But temptation pushed him forward like a demon dragging its prisoner. The first night broke him. The second night drained him. By the third, he felt numb, hollow, filthy. By the fourth, he barely recognized himself. On the fifth night, the woman vanished, gone, as if she had dissolved into the air. Judas searched the entire town in panic. No sign. He returned to Nwoko in rage. Judas stormed into the witch doctor's hut like a man possessed. His chest rose and fell with anger, his eyes wild, his fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Nwoko the seer was seated in his usual place, blowing powder into a calabash fire that crackled with strange green flames. Without lifting his head, he said calmly, "You return." Judas shouted, "The woman is gone. I searched everywhere. You lied to me." Nwoko looked up slowly, his gaze heavy and ancient. "If she is gone, then the spirits do not want you to complete it." "I did everything you asked," Judas screamed. "I defiled myself. I suffered. I disgraced myself. And now you're telling me the spirits changed their mind?" "The unseen world does as it wishes," Nwoko replied. "You entered a covenant that requires obedience. If the offering disappears, that means the spirits rejected you." Judas felt something break inside him. A sharp, tearing pain, not physical, but spiritual. The shame, the guilt, the disgust, the frustration, everything he buried deep inside came rushing up like boiling water. "You told me I would get power," he yelled. "You told me my church would grow. You promised me crowd, miracles, money. Now look at me. I can't sleep. I can't think. I see her face everywhere. You destroyed my life." Nwoko's voice turned cold. "I did not force you. Greed drove you here. You chose darkness over light. Do not blame me." That sentence hit Judas like a slap. He staggered backward, trembling violently. In that moment, he hated Nwoko, hated him with a burning intensity he had never felt before. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Give me the power, or I swear something will happen here today." Nwoko stood slowly, his charms rattling. "Power does not work for fools. You do not have the heart of a leader. You only have the hunger of a thief. Go home before darkness swallows you completely." Those words snapped the last thread tethering Judas's sanity. In blinding fury, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small rusty pistol, a weapon he had hidden for months for security. His hands shook violently, but his rage held it steady enough. Nwoko's eyes widened only slightly. So this is the path you choose? You ruined my life, Judas screamed, tears streaming down his face. Everything is gone because of you. You ruined yourself, Nwoko answered softly. Darkness only guided your footsteps. Shut up, Judas cried. And before reason could return, before guilt could whisper, before conscience could speak, he pulled the trigger. The gunshot exploded through the hut like thunder. Birds scattered from nearby trees. The green fire flickered wildly, then dimmed. Nwoko staggered backward, clutching his chest. Blood trickled down his fingers, dark and thick. He collapsed onto the dusty floor, his charms scattering around him like dying snakes. Silence swallowed the hut. Judas stood frozen, the gun in his trembling hand, his breath coming in violent gasps. His ears rang. His mind went blank. His heart pounded so loudly that he thought it would burst. He dropped the gun. What have I done? He whispered. Outside, footsteps approached. Voices shouted. Someone had heard the gunshot. Judas's fate was sealed. Villagers rushed toward the hut, some holding lanterns, others grabbing sticks and stones. The sound of their footsteps thundered across the compound like an angry storm. Judas snapped out of his frozen trance just as the first man appeared at the doorway. There he is, someone shouted. Judas, kill Baba Nwoko. Judas stumbled backward, shaking violently, his knees weak as water. Before he could move, strong hands grabbed him, dragging him outside. He didn't struggle. His body felt hollow, his spirit crushed beneath an unimaginable weight. The villagers tied his hands with rope, shouting curses at him. Women wailed, men spat on him, children stared with fear. Someone hit him on the back, someone else slapped him. Blood trickled from his nose, but Judas felt nothing. All he could see was the lifeless body lying inside the hut, the man he killed, the nightmare he created. The police arrived shortly after, sirens howling through the quiet night. They pushed through the crowd, lifted Judas from the ground, and shoved him into the back of their pickup. As the vehicle drove away, Judas pressed his forehead against the metal bars, tears streaming down his face. But the tears did not come from sorrow alone. They came from a sudden, overwhelming realization. He had run after power, but fell into a pit he dug for himself. At the station, Judas sat on a cold bench, staring blankly at the wall. A police officer slammed a file on the table and glared at him. Why you kill that old man? Judas opened his mouth, but no words came. What would he say? I slept with a mad woman for power, and when it failed, I shot him? He shook his head slowly. The officer scoffed. Silence? Good. Court will hear your story. Judas's trial drew crowds from both his village and the city. People wanted to see the carpenter turned fake pastor who murdered the witch doctor. Reporters wrote about him. Social media insulted him. His face became the symbol of greed gone mad. In court, Judas stood with trembling legs as the judge read the charges. Murder, possession of an illegal firearm, attempt to defraud the public by opening a fake church, and engaging in occult practices capable of disturbing public peace. When asked to explain himself, Judas whispered weakly, I was blinded. I did not know what I was doing. I wanted a better life. I wanted what others had. The courtroom murmured. The judge stared at him sternly. Many want a better life, Mr. Judas, but they do not take innocent lives. Ambition is good, but when ambition partners with greed, destruction follows. Judas lowered his head as the judge continued. The court finds you guilty. The gavel hit the wooden block like a death sentence. You are hereby sentenced to 25 years in prison. Gasps filled the room. Judas squeezed his eyes shut as tears slipped down his face. The chains on his hands and feet felt heavier than iron. They felt like the weight of his own decisions dragging him into darkness. As officers led him away, he heard faint murmurs. Greed finish him. Pastor Way no get callin'. See what in him they find. But the loudest voice was the silent one in his heart. I destroyed myself. Prison was nothing like Judas imagined. The moment he stepped inside, he felt swallowed by a world stripped of color and mercy. The iron gates slammed behind him with a finality that sank into his bones. The air smelled of sweat, rust, and hopelessness. Prisoners stared at him, some with curiosity, others with hunger, and a few with cold indifference. A guard pushed him forward. "Welcome to reality, Pastor." The word cut him like a knife. Judas was assigned a small cell with cracked walls and a broken mattress. His cellmate, a muscular man with several scars, eyed him from the corner. "You be that carpenter way kill witch doctor?" the man asked. Judas nodded shakily. The man chuckled. "Greed in a bad spirit. But you go get sense here." Judas lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in months, the illusion of wealth, fame, and power shattered completely. All he saw was the truth. He had traded dignity for shame, talent for desperation, sanity for greed. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Every morning, Judas woke to the clang of metal doors and the distant shouts of inmates arguing. Instead of hammering wood, he scrubbed floors. Instead of customers praising his skills, he listened to prisoners mocking him. "Pastor Judas, give us prophecy nah. Man of charm, where your power day? You waste sleep with mad person. How mark it?" Each insult landed like a stone on his chest, but the worst torment came at night. When the lights were off and silence filled the prison, Judas heard her voice. The mad woman. He saw her face, heard her humming, felt the weight of his shame pressing on him, and then Nwoko's voice echoed. "You ruined yourself." One rainy evening, as water dripped through a crack in the roof, a guard called out from the bars, "Judas, you get visitor." Judas lifted his head slowly, surprised. Who would visit him? His family had abandoned him in shame. His apprentices were too young. His neighbors detested him. Yet he followed the guard to the visitation area. There, behind the metal screen, sat Emeka. Judas froze. His throat tightened. Shame washed over him like cold water. Emeka looked older, his eyes tired, but still warm. Judas managed a whisper. "You came?" Emeka nodded. "I heard everything. The whole town they talk." Silence lingered. Then Judas broke down, tears dripping onto the table. "Emeka, my life done finish. I destroyed everything. I fell deep into darkness. I can't forgive myself." Emeka leaned closer. "Judas, you went down a terrible road. But listen to me, your life never finish. You still get breath. As long as breath day, God fit still hear you." Judas shook his head. "How God go hear person like me? I mocked him. I dirtied myself. I killed a man." Emeka's voice softened. "There is no pit so deep that God's mercy no fit reach. You go serve your time, but your soul no need die here. Start with repentance." Judas wiped his tears. "I feel so empty." "Good," Emeka said gently. "Empty ground fit grow new seed." That night, Judas returned to his cell with a strange heaviness, yet a tiny spark of hope flickered deep within. For the first time since his arrest, he knelt beside his thin mattress. His knees shook, his hands trembled. Words refused to come. But eventually, through cracked lips and burning eyes, he whispered, "God, I am dirty. I am guilty. I am ashamed. I chased what you didn't give me. I hurt people. I sinned. If you can still hear me, have mercy." It wasn't eloquent, it wasn't polished, but it was honest. And for the first time in a long time, Judas slept without nightmares. Months passed and something subtle changed in him. He no longer cursed the guards. He no longer snapped at inmates. He no longer dreamt of cars, suits, crowds, or luxury. He dreamt of forgiveness, of peace, of the workshop he abandoned, of the life he threw away. He began helping other inmates fix broken stools, small shelves, and wooden plates. Word spread quickly, and soon the prison officers asked him to repair broken benches in the courtyard. For the first time in years, Judas used his true gift, not for greed, not for manipulation, but for usefulness. One afternoon, as he worked on a cracked wooden table, a guard approached him. "Carpenter, you good with your hands. Why you no stick to this before?" Judas smiled sadly. "Because I thought God's blessing was too small. I didn't see the greatness in small things." The guard nodded. "Now you day learn." Judas nodded too slowly. Through service and quiet humility, Judas regained something he thought he had lost forever: his humanity. 10 years into his sentence, he was transferred to a rehabilitation unit for inmates with good behavior. There, he taught younger prisoners carpentry. He listened to their stories. He told them his, not to brag, not to frighten, but to warn. "My brothers," he would say softly, "greed dey sweet at first, but e dey collect everything from you later. I lose my freedom, my dignity, my name, all because I wanted shortcut. No go where God no send you." Some mocked him, some ignored him, but some listened with trembling hearts, and perhaps, in that small way, Judas made amends for the darkness he once embraced. Years rolled by like silent waves. His hair grew gray, his shoulders bent, but his eyes became softer. Eyes of a man who had walked into hell and crawled slowly back toward light. One cold morning, a guard walked to his workshop area holding a brown envelope. "Judas Okoye?" Judas looked up. "Yes." The guard handed him the envelope. Inside was a letter stamped with the official seal of the State Judicial Board. Judas unfolded it slowly. His hand shook harder with each line he read. His sentence had been reduced for exemplary behavior, service, and rehabilitation work. He would be released in 6 months. For a long time, he simply stared at the letter. Then tears filled his eyes. Soft, quiet tears that dripped onto the floor like drops of redemption. He whispered, "Thank you." Not to Nwoko, not to the spirits he once chased, not to the illusions he once worshipped, but to the God he once mocked, the God who never stopped watching him, never stopped waiting, never stopped calling him home. Moral of this story: greed is a silent poison. It blinds, destroys, and misleads. Judas had talent, dignity, and a future, but he wanted shortcuts. He wanted glory without calling, wealth without work, power without purity, and it cost him everything. Thanks for watching this powerful story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional African stories filled with lessons and truth.